Some Texas cities are getting rid of parking requirements, and here's why. I'm Charles Blaine, and this is Texas Tomorrow. A mechanic in Pasadena, Texas purchased an old garage with 5 parking spaces. He was tired of leasing space for his mechanic shop and decided he wanted his own space. Despite having what he considered ample parking space for his business, he found himself in violation of Pasadena's required parking minimum ordinance. The ordinance says that auto repair shops must have 10 parking spaces for every 1,000 square feet of floor space for mechanic shops. Seems arbitrary. I'd trust the shop owner to know how many spaces he needs more than the city. But unfortunately, this is not a unique incident, and it happens in Texas cities across the state and in cities across the country. In this specific case, because of how much floor space he has, the ordinance would require him to build 28 parking spaces, which would cost him roughly $40,000. Not only more than what he could afford, but almost half of what it cost him to purchase the property to begin with. These requirements drive up the cost to the builder and to business owners and to the consumer at the end of the day. Austin Housing and Planning estimated that the cost of parking spaces are between $5,000 and $10,000 per space for a surface lot and $20,000 to $60,000 per space for a parking structure. For apartments, they determined that adding 1 additional parking space per apartment unit increased rent by $200 per month, while also limiting the number of units a developer can build. But in November, Austin moved to eliminate parking requirements in new construction. A lot of cities are now reevaluating their requirements in this area. Houston addressed the issue in some parts of town. Dallas is considering changing its rules, and it's not just big cities. Haltom City and Tarrant County has been pushed by its local business alliance to ease their parking minimums, although they've been a little reluctant. Some in the group are even urging the state to follow Minnesota's lead and abolish parking minimums statewide. With this change, the question isn't really whether or not you like parking spots and driving, it's whether or not you think local government should have the authority to set arbitrary minimum numbers for parking spot development. It's hard to imagine that a business who knows its customers are car dependent is going to build without ample space to serve its customers. The market would never let that happen. But on the flip side, because these arbitrary numbers are set, you have many businesses who know their customers may not be car dependent, yet they are still forced to provide more parking spots than they actually need. This drives up the cost of their development, it eats up valuable floor space that they could otherwise use for products, and then both of those factor into the underlying cost of whatever product they're selling. And that is ultimately passed on to the consumer. If you want parking spots like I do, that's fine. I just drive to a place with ample parking, and if it doesn't have it, I go somewhere else. But more and more local governments are waking up to the idea that the way that they've been doing it doesn't work. A report a few years ago found roughly 1/4 of downtown Dallas is purely parking lots. Same for Fort Worth, Houston, and San Antonio. Arlington was as high as 42% and Austin as low as 17%. So Texas towns fall all over the spectrum, which is why the amount of parking should be determined by the businesses who need them and the consumers who utilize them. Thanks for tuning into this week's episode of Texas Tomorrow. My name is Charles Blaine. Please like and share this episode. And as always, if there's an issue happening in your community, please let us know. We'd love to talk about it.